Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to our Sunday Bhagavatam class. A few weeks ago, we completed chapter 1 of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today, we need to begin chapter 2. And before we begin chapter 2, I thought it would be a good idea for us to quickly recollect what we've completed in chapter 1 so far. So, Canto 1 is divided into three parts, Part A, Part B, and Part C. Chapters 1 and 2 constitute part A, and today we'll begin chapter 2. But if you recollect, when we began Canto 1, chapter 1, the first three shlokas are considered the most important shlokas. As a matter of fact, those three shlokas need to be memorized. We began with the definition of the absolute truth. Then we looked at, in shloka number 2, why is Srimad Bhagavatam considered so glorious? It's considered the summum bonum of all Shastras. The essence of all Vedic scriptures is contained in Srimad Bhagavatam alone. So if we really want to understand scriptures, we don't need to read all scriptures. Just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam is sufficient for us to understand the highest philosophy. And it's no secret that the highest philosophy is that worshipping Krishna is the topmost form of bhakti, especially worshipping Krishna in his form as Bhagavan. And in shloka number 3, this invocation, the 3 shlokas that are considered the invocation to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the author is inviting us to enter the Srimad Bhagavatam and to actually relish the sweetness of Srimad Bhagavatam. In that process, we came across the fact that on the banks of the river Naimisharanya, some sages are gathered, headed by Shaunaka Rishi and his colleagues, and in walks in Suta Goswami. And they are very, very happy to have such an exalted personality in their midst. But at the same time, they are deeply worried for the people of Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga has just started. The minute Lord Krishna left this material world back to his abode, Kali Yuga started. Now, these sages are so well versed in scriptures. They know that of the 4 yugas, Kali Yuga is considered to be the most abominable of the 4 yugas. That Kali Yuga is going to present a tremendous amount of suffering for humanity. And because the intensity of the suffering in Kali Yuga is far greater than the 3 other yugas, naturally the sages were compassionate, they were concerned, and they wanted to know how they could help these jivatmas who are going to take birth in Kali Yuga, because they know it's going to be a tough road ahead. Kali Yuga alone is 4.32 lakh years, of which we've barely passed 5,000 years, a little more than 5,000 years. So there is a lot more worse things that are going to happen. The question is, how do we prepare, motivate the jivatmas in Kali Yuga to come back to God? Because in Kali Yuga, it is understood that atheism, which is the rejection of God, is going to be predominant over a period of time. People will reject the concept of God because they will have so many difficulties. They will simply be clouded with distress. Their mind and intelligence will be clouded with distress and anxieties and dualities. So, as Suta Goswami takes his seat, the rishis ask 6 questions. And these 6 questions are, ultimately, what is good for humanity? What is it that human beings should do that is going to benefit them? That was one question. The second question that the sages asked Suta Goswami is, there are many scriptures. It's not possible for us in Kali Yuga to become a proficient or even have a long enough time to truly read, understand, and imbibe what the scriptures have to say for us. Therefore, my dear Suta Goswami, can you just condense all the scriptures and tell us what is the most important thing? There are too many things that we need to read. If you have to condense all of it, what is the key message that we need to take away from the scriptures? So, what is the essence of all the scriptures? First of all, why are there so many scriptures? In any other practice of religion, whether it is Christianity or Islam or Sikhism or Buddhism, there tends to be one scripture that they focus on. Why is it that in Sanatan Dharma there are hundreds and hundreds of scriptures? So many acharyas have written so many scriptures. Vyas himself has compiled all of the Vedic knowledge, which is actually voluminous in terms of content, in terms of understanding, in terms of difficulty. So these were the 2 questions. And then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth questions were also asked. The third question asked was, why did Lord Krishna occupy the womb of Devaki and choose Vasudev as his father? Why did the Lord himself come? The Lord can send anybody else to save us, to save humanity. Why did the Lord take special interest and come by himself? That too, into the womb of what appear to be ordinary personalities. Of course, they are extraordinary personalities, Devaki and Vasudev. Then 2 concurrent questions was, can you tell us about the Purusha avatars? And then immediately after that, can you tell us about the Leela avatars? Now we may think all avatars are same, right? They are just the Lord coming in different forms, performing different Leelas with different devotees in different circumstances, in different yugas, in different mood. So there is something called the Purusha avatars, there's something called the Leela avatars. What's the difference between the two? Those were 2 questions. And the final question was, now that the Lord has gone back, where has Dharma taken shelter? Has Dharma also left with the Supreme Lord? Because Kali Yuga is starting, has he taken Dharma also back with him? That was the question. And a broader summary of the 23 shlokas that we read in the first chapter was, we talked about the prelude, the invocation, which is in the first shloka it is Sambandha, in the second shloka it's Abhidheya, and in the third shloka of the first chapter is Prayojana. Sambandha meaning all of us have a relationship, a unique relationship with the Supreme Lord. Each of our relationship can be very unique. But the way we express that relationship with the Lord and the way we practice that expression of that relationship with the Supreme Lord is called Abhidheya. Now, we already know by reading the Bhagavad Gita what the Lord wants. The Lord has already said, always think of me. If you cannot think of me, become my devotee. If you cannot become my devotee, worship me. If you cannot worship me, bow down to me. He repeats this particular shloka twice so you can understand the significance of what is it that the Lord wants you and I to do. So the best way to practice this sambandha is to serve the Supreme Lord, and this is called abhidheya. But because we are all unique individuals and we have unique relationship with the Supreme Lord in different rasas, We may also express it in different ways, in different intensities. But the ultimate objective, prayojana, is to actually learn how to love the Supreme Lord. And when you love someone, you serve them selflessly. So if you love the Supreme Lord, then you will serve him without asking him for anything. You will not ask him for anything. That is selfless love. So these first three slokas are constructed in such a way that it summarizes the relationship between the Jivatma and Paramatma and what is the ultimate object of love for us, that's the Supreme Lord. And how do we express it? And then in shlokas 4 to 8, the sages are glorifying Suta Goswami. When someone exalted comes into your presence, naturally your consciousness is automatically uplifted. And because you feel such great bliss in the presence of great personalities, it's only natural that you're going to glorify them. So it takes 4 shlokas for the sages to glorify Suta Goswami. They glorify the good qualities that he comes with. They glorify the fact that he has a guru. They glorify the fact that he is here to help them, to steer the Kali Yuga Vasis by answering their 6 questions. Saying this, they honor Suta Goswami by offering him a Vyasasana and requesting him to kindly take a seat. Then in shlokas 9 to 23, the sages begin to talk about Kali Yuga. They also say, you're an exalted personality. Have no doubt that we are actually very eager to hear from you. We're anxious to hear from you. Because that's all a soul hankers for, is to hear about the Supreme Lord. A soul that loves the Lord and has a natural inclination to establish its relationship, his or her relationship with the Supreme Lord, is always eager to hear. And therefore, they convince Suta Goswami that he's the right person. They are eager to hear. They are concerned about Kali Yuga. And in that context, they ask those 6 questions that we just looked at. So, with that, we had completed chapter 1. So today we're going to go to chapter 2. So we'll try and finish 7 shlokas. The purports also to these shlokas are quite short. So we will see if we can finish all 7 today. But before we do that, actually, let me just go back to the PowerPoint because I want to cover the summary of chapter 2. Yeah. So, so chapter 1 is the questions posed by the sages. That's the title to the chapter. Chapter 2, which has 34 shlokas, is titled Divinity and Divine Service. So a summary of these shlokas are here. So the sages have asked the 6 questions. And from shlokas 1 to 7 in chapter 2, Suta Goswami is going to begin to reply to those questions. The questions may not always be answered in the sequence in which they were posed. You will notice that as we go through the shlokas. So now the sages have offered their obeisances to Suta Goswami, asked him to take a nice seat, and they have asked the questions. They've glorified him and they've posed their questions. And now Suta Goswami is going to offer obeisances. So in 4 shlokas, just as the sages glorify Suta Goswami in 4 shlokas, similarly, Suta Goswami is going to glorify his predecessors, his guru and others. So he will offer obeisances. Then, what does an exalted personality do? when he has a very, very bright and intelligent audience asking him very intelligent questions, pertinent questions. An exalted preacher will also glorify the questions that were asked. So he says, I really appreciate and admire the questions that you have posed me. And then in Shloka 6 and 7, he answers the first two questions. What were the first two questions? The first question was, what is the ultimate good for all humanity? The second question is, what is the essence of all scriptures? So we will cover the first 7 shlokas if we can today. But just to give you a summary of the rest of the chapter that we will cover over the next few weeks, from shlokas 8 to 15, the summary of these shlokas is that in the context of Varnashrama, what are our duties? You know, we have the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. The 4 Varnas being Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And the 4 Ashramas being Brahmacharya Ashram, Grahastha Ashram, Vanaprastha Ashram, and finally Sannyasi. So both this Varna and Ashrama was created by Lord Krishna only, as he explains in the Bhagavad Gita. But what is the purpose? Why did the Lord set up this Varna and Ashrama in such a way? It's actually to practice bhakti, to make it easy to practice bhakti. So essentially the purpose of Varnashrama is to help the Jivatmas practice bhakti. So Suta Goswami in shlokas 8 to 10 talks about the Varnashrama and the goal of each Varna and Ashrama. And then Suta Goswami talks about the 3 features of the absolute truth. Again, if you have attended the Bhagavad Gita sessions, we know that the Lord has 3 features, the Brahman feature, the Paramatma feature, and the Bhagavan feature. Each feature is represents particular qualities, particular levels of realization. However, it is accepted that the Bhagavan feature is the most complete feature of the Supreme in comparison to Brahman and Paramatma. But in our Sanatana Dharma, different traditions and philosophies may focus their attention on different features of the Lord. For example, the Brahmavadis focus on the Brahman feature of the Lord. Those who practice Dhyana Yoga worship the Paramatma feature of the Lord. And then the Bhaktas worship the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, which includes the Brahman and Paramatma feature. And Suta Goswami says one can actually realize the complete absolute truth only through bhakti. And the entire purpose of Varnashrama is to help us practice bhakti. That means in Shloka 14, Suta Goswami is saying, all we have to do is hear about the Supreme. The more we hear, the more we get to glorify Him. The more we glorify the Lord, the more we remember Him. And the more we remember the Lord, it is only natural that we'll begin to worship Him. So hearing, glorifying, remembering, and worshipping the Lord is our fundamental primary duty. All other duties are considered secondary. And how does remembering the Lord actually help you? Just as Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Suta Goswami repeats, one who remembers the Lord all the time, there is no karmic reactions. And therefore, the rhetorical question is, if you know how to avoid accumulating karma or karmic reactions, why would you not be smart enough and intelligent enough to constantly remember the Lord? That's the question that is being asked. Who won't hear about the Supreme Lord? If they know the trick to avoid karmic reactions is only to think about the Lord, hear the Lord, remember the Lord, do Shravanam Kirtanam all the time. And then in Shloka 16 to 22, the various stages of bhakti. See, every process, every path in Sanatana Dharma has various stages of maturity. So bhakti is also not a unidimensional feature. We will all experience bhakti differently based on our maturity in consciousness or the elevation of our consciousness. So the various stages of bhakti are described by Suta Goswami from shlokas 16 to 20. Now you can see how in Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole Bhagavatam starts with bhakti itself. It does not start with karma yoga, it does not start with jnana yoga or with dhyana. It comes straight to bhakti. So remember, the essence of all shastras is actually bhakti. The essence of all Vedic scriptures is considered to be the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the various stages of bhakti, and then Suta Goswami concludes that actually everybody is trying to perform bhakti, but their understanding of bhakti may not be accurate or complete. And then in shlokas 23 to 29, just as Lord Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, worship me. He doesn't say worship whoever you want. So again here Suta Goswami is reiterating themes from the Bhagavad Gita. Only Krishna has to be worshipped. But Krishna also comes as different avatars. So does that mean we reject all the avatars? No. Among the Guna avatars, Vishnu is to be worshipped. Guna avatars means there are 3 Guna avatars. Brahma, Vishnu and Lord Shiva. Among these 3 Guna avatars, between Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who should be worshipped? Lord Vishnu should be worshipped. And just as the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, here Suta Goswami is repeating, therefore, we should not worship any demigods. We should reject demigod worship. Now, this is a touchy subject, it's a potential controversial subject, but unless you get into a deeper understanding, one can really take offense when one hears that you should stop worshipping demigods. But there's a deeper significance behind that is explained by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita itself. The essence of all process is to achieve Vasudeva. So the answer to question 4. The 4th question was the Purusha avatars. The 3rd question was about why does the Lord appear in the womb of Devaki and Vasudeva. And the 4th question was about the Purusha avatars. So the 4th question is answered in shlokas 30 to 33. How the Lord expands into the various Purusha avatars. And then the 3rd question, why did the Lord himself appear? That is answered in the very last shloka, which is essentially to reclaim the pure souls. The Lord comes to reclaim those souls who are ready to come back to him. So this is a summary overview of chapter 2. So with that, let's go to the first shloka. So let's look at shloka number 1.2.1. Vyasa uvacha
Vyas uvacha
iti samprashna samhrishtaha
iti samprashna samhrishtaha
Vipranam Raumaharshanihi
Vipranam Raumaharshanihi
Pratipujya Vachastesham
Pratipujya vachastesham
Pravaktum Upachakrame.
Pravaktum upachakrame.
Word for word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Vyasa Uvachaha.
Vyasa uvacha.
Vyasa said.
Vyasa said.
Iti.
Iti.
Thus.
Thus.
Samprashna.
Samprashna.
Perfect inquiries.
Perfect inquiries.
Samhrishtaha.
Samhrishtaha.
perfectly satisfied.
perfectly satisfied.
Viprana,
Viprana,
of the sages there.
of the sages there.
Rauma Harshanihi,
Rauma Harshanihi,
the son of Roma Harshana,
the son of Roma Harshana,
namely Ugrashrava,
namely Ugrashrava,
Pratipujya,
Pratipujya,
after thanking them.
after thanking them.
Vachaha,
Vachaha,
words.
words.
Tesham,
Tesham,
there.
there.
Pravaktum,
Pravaktum,
to reply to them.
to reply to them.
Upachakrame,
Upachakrami,
attempted.
attempted.
Translation. Ugrashrava,
Ugrashrava,
Suta Goswami,
Suta Goswami,
the son of Roma Harshana,
the son of Roma Harshana,
being fully satisfied
being fully satisfied
by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas,
by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas,
thanked them,
thanked them,
and thus attempted to reply.
and thus attempted to reply.
Prabhupada has written a very short purport. The purport goes, the sages of Naimisharanya asked Suta Goswami 6 questions, and so he is answering them one by one, which takes us to the next shloka, which is shloka number 2. Suta uvacha
Suta Uvacha
yam pravrajantam anupetamapeta
Yam Pravrajantamanupetamakrityam
Dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava
Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava
putreti tanmayataya taravobhineduhu
Putreti Tanamayataya Taravobhineduhu
tam sarvabhutahridayam munimanatosmi.
Tam Sarvabhutahridayamunim Anatosmi.
Good forward meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Sutaha,
Sutaha
Suta Goswami,
Suta Goswami
Uvacha,
Uvacha
said,
said,
Yam,
Yam
whom,
whom
Pravrajantam,
Pravrajantam
while going away for the renounced order of life,
while going away for the renounced order of life.
Anupetam,
Anupetam,
without being reformed by the sacred thread,
without being reformed by the sacred thread.
Apeta,
Apeta,
not undergoing ceremonies,
not undergoing ceremonies.
Krityam,
Krityam,
prescribed duties,
prescribed duties.
Dvaipayanaha,
Dvaipayanaha,
Vyasadeva,
Vyasadeva,
Viraha,
Viraha,
separation,
separation.
Kataraha,
Kataraha,
being afraid of,
being afraid of.
Ajuhava,
Ajuhava,
exclaimed,
exclaimed.
Putra iti,
Putra iti,
O my son,
O my son.
Tatmayataya,
Tatmayataya,
being absorbed in that way,
being absorbed in that way.
Taravaha,
Taravaha,
all the trees,
all the trees.
Abhineduhu,
Abhineduhu,
responded,
responded.
Tam,
Tam,
unto him,
unto him.
Sarva,
Sarva,
all,
all.
Bhuta,
Bhuta,
living entities,
living entities.
Hridayam,
Hridayam,
heart,
heart.
Munim,
Munim,
sage,
sage.
Anataha asmi,
Anataha asmi,
offer obeisances.
offer obeisances.
Translation. Srila Suta Goswami said,
Srila Suta Goswami said,
let me offer my respectful obeisances
let me offer my respectful obeisances
unto that great sage
unto that great sage,
Shukadeva Goswami,
Sukadeva Goswami,
who can enter the hearts of all.
who can enter the hearts of all.
When he went away
When he went away
to take up the renounced order of life,
to take up the renounced order of life,
sannyasa,
sannyasa,
leaving home
leaving home
without undergoing reformation
without undergoing reformation
by the sacred thread
by the sacred thread
or the ceremonies observed
or the ceremonies observed
by the higher castes,
by the higher castes,
his father Vyasadeva,
his father Vyasadeva,
fearing separation from him,
fearing separation from him,
cried out,
cried out,
O my son,
O my son,
indeed,
indeed,
only the trees
only the trees
which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation
which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation
echoed in response to the begrieved father.
echoed in response to the begrieved father.
So, so Suta Goswami is first offering obeisances to who he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from, which is Shukadeva Goswami. And he's giving us a brief hint of who this Shukadeva Goswami is, the son of Vyasadeva, who, as soon as he was born out of the womb of his mother, Vatika, he just leaves. He just walks off into the forest. So the fact that he stayed in his mother's womb for, I don't know, 15 or 16 years, and then comes out and walks right out without offering any obeisances to his parents, he just walks out, leaves the house. And how distraught Vyasadeva must have been to see his son leave the house without even turning around to look at his parents. And therefore, Vyasadeva is chasing his son, saying, O Putra, O Putra, Putra. But then Shukadeva Goswami doesn't respond. Who responds in separation? The trees in the forest respond. Putra, Putra, Putra. So this was a separation that Vyasadeva was feeling when his son walked out, Shukadeva Goswami. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the institution of Varna and Ashrama prescribes many regulative duties to be observed by its followers. Now, why is Prabhupada talking about Varna and Ashrama? Because Suta Goswami has said specifically, this Shukadev Goswami, as soon as he took birth, he didn't live in his family with his family at all. No thread ceremony. Straight from birth, directly to sannyas ashram. No brahmachari ashram, no grahastha, no vanaprastha, no sannyas later on. Immediately after birth, sannyas ashram. Which means he didn't undergo any of the traditional reformatory processes that all of us are meant to undergo, depending on whether you're male or female. So no sacred ceremony, no other ceremonies that the Brahmana caste would perform typically. And in response to that, Prabhupada explains the Varnashrama. The institution of Varna and Ashrama prescribes many regulative duties to be observed by its followers. Such duties enjoin that a candidate willing to study the Vedas must approach a bona fide spiritual master and request acceptance as his disciple. The first step is that if you really want to study the Vedas, you need to find a bona fide teacher. Approach him very submissively and request him to accept you as his disciple. That's the process. It's always the student that has to beg the master to accept them as a student. The sacred thread is the sign of those who are competent to study the Vedas from the Acharya or the bona fide spiritual master. Sri Shukadev Goswami did not undergo such purificatory ceremonies because he was a liberated soul from his very birth. So very rarely you will have souls appear like this who are born pure devotees. Therefore, there was no reason for Shukadev Goswami to undergo the thread ceremony or anything else. So, generally, Prabhupada writes, a man is born as an ordinary being, and by the purificatory processes, he is born for the second time. So, it is said that when you take this thread ceremony, you are actually taking your spiritual birth. Similarly, when you go through the initiation process, you are actually taking your second birth, because in your second birth, your guru accepts all of your karma and gives you a new life. Similarly, this purificatory process, by accepting the thread ceremony and consenting to study the Vedas under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, means you are given a new lease on life. Your first birth is a karmic birth. Your second birth is your spiritual. It's the beginning of your spiritual journey. When he sees, that's why it's called Dvija, second time. When he sees a new light and seeks direction for spiritual progress, he approaches a spiritual master for instruction in the Vedas. The spiritual master accepts only the sincere inquirer as his disciple and gives him the sacred thread. The spiritual master is not under any obligation to accept any and all disciples. He can set a standard and say, you reach the standard. If you've met that standard, I will accept you as my student, and then I can begin to teach you. So, even in our system of initiation, we have set standards that has to be met before you can take initiation, because it's a very serious subject. To say, I am giving up my karmic birth and I'm beginning my spiritual birth now with the help of my spiritual master. In this way, a man becomes twice born, or a dvija. After qualifying as a dvija, one may study the Vedas. And after becoming well versed in the Vedas, one may become a Vipra. Vipra is another term for Brahmana, or very learned person. So, first of all, you should have undergo a particular reformatory ceremony, purificatory process before you can study the Vedas. And in our culture, Brahmanas are allowed to study Vedas. Brahmanas not by caste, not by birth, but by qualification. A Vipra, or a qualified Brahmana, thus realizes the absolute and makes further progress in spiritual life until he reaches the Vaishnava stage. So, if you are qualified yourself as a Brahmana, doesn't necessarily mean you're a Vaishnava, because a Vaishnava is considered to be higher than a Brahmana. A Vaishnava can bypass all those stages and go directly and worship the Supreme Lord. And therefore, a Vaishnava is considered to be equal to or better than a Brahmana. The Vaishnava stage is the postgraduate status of a Brahmana. A progressive Brahmana must necessarily become a Vaishnava. For a Vaishnava is a self-realized, learned Brahmana, which means all Vaishnavas are Brahmanas, not all Brahmanas are Vaishnavas. Brahmanas must qualify themselves to worship Lord Vishnu. Because after studying the Vedas, what does the Lord say in the 15th shloka of the 15th chapter? Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyah. After studying all the Vedas, you will come to the conclusion Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Nothing else besides that. Only Vasudeva. Everything belongs to Vasudeva. Srila Shukadev Goswami was a Vaishnava from the beginning. Therefore, there was no need for him to undergo all the processes of the Varnashrama institution. Ultimately, the aim of Varnashrama Dharma is to turn a crude man into a pure devotee of the Lord, or a Vaishnava. The whole purpose of studying the Vedas is to convert yourself from an animal to a pure devotee. Because Even human beings who are not studying the Vedic scriptures are considered to be animals. Because they are also doing the same four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, just like any other animals do. And as Prabhupada very beautifully says, human beings do it in a very sophisticated way. Animals do everything in the open. So the purpose of Varnashrama Dharma is to turn a crude man into a pure devotee of the Lord or a Vaishnava. Anyone, therefore, who becomes a Vaishnava, accepted by the first class Vaishnava or Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava, is already considered a Brahmin, regardless of his birth or past deeds. So your birth does not determine your caste. It's your qualifications that determine your caste or the varna that you occupy. But anyway, that's a different topic. We don't want to get into caste system today. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted this principle and recognized Srila Haridasa Thakura as the Acharya of the holy name, although Thakur Haridas appeared in a Mohammedan family. So we've heard about Haridas Thakur, who was actually born to Muslim parents. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so attached to chanting the holy names, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He was so attached to the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He used to chant it 3 lakh times a day. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's none other than Krishna himself, accepted and designated Haridas Thakur as the Namacharya. The Acharya for the holy names is Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was no Brahmana. He was born in a Mohammedan family, but he was a Vaishnava. Why? Because he was attached to Lord Krishna. He was chanting the holy names of the Lord. In conclusion, Srila Shukadev Goswami was born a Vaishnava, and therefore Brahmanism was included in him. Because Brahmanism was included in him, he did not have to go through the thread ceremony, etc. He did not have to undergo any ceremonies. Any low-born person, be he a Kirata, Puna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, Kasha, or even lower, can be delivered to the highest transcendental position by the mercy of Vaishnavas. So anybody from any quote unquote caste or casteless people, anybody can chant the holy names of the Lord and become a Vaishnava. But they get to chant the holy names of the Lord by the mercy of another Vaishnava who introduces them to the chanting of the holy names. Srila Shukadev Goswami was the spiritual master of Sri Suta Goswami, who therefore offers his respectful obeisances unto Srila Shukadev Goswami before he begins his answers to the questions of the sages at Naimisharanya. So, why is Suta Goswami offering obeisances to Shukadev Goswami? One is he's an exalted personality, he's a pure devotee. And the other reason is he is a spiritual master. He has heard the Bhagavad Katha from Shukadev Goswami, which takes us to the next shloka, which is shloka number 3 of chapter 2. Yasvanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam
Yasvanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam
adhyatma deepam atitirushatam tamondham
Adhyatmadipam atititishatam tamurtham
samsarinam karunayaha purana guhyam
Samsarinam karunayaha purana guhyam
tam vyasasunam upayami gurum munina.
Tam vyasasunam upayami gurum munina
Word for word meaning. Yaha,
Yaha
he who,
He who
swa anubhavam,
Swa anubhavam
self assimilated,
self-assimilated,
experienced,
experienced,
akhila,
akhila,
all around,
all around,
shruti,
shruti,
the Vedas,
the Vedas,
saram,
saram,
cream,
cream,
Ekam,
Ekam,
the only one.
the only one.
Adhyatma,
Adhyatma,
transcendental.
transcendental.
Deepam,
Deepam,
torchlight.
torchlight.
Atiti tir shatam,
Aditi Tirshatam,
desiring to overcome.
desiring to overcome.
Tamaha andham,
Tamaha Andham,
deeply dark material existence.
deeply dark material existence.
Samsarinam,
Samsarinam,
of the materialistic men.
of the materialistic men.
Karunaya,
Karunaya,
out of causeless mercy.
out of causeless mercy.
Aha,
Aha,
said.
said.
Purana,
Purana,
supplement to the Vedas.
supplement to the Vedas.
Guhyam,
Guhyam,
very confidential.
very confidential. Tam,
Unto him.
unto him.
Vyasa Sunum,
Vyasa Sunu,
son of Vyasadeva.
the son of Vyasadeva.
Upayami,
Upayami,
let me offer my obeisances.
let me offer my obeisances.
Gurum,
Guru,
the spiritual master.
the spiritual master.
Muninam,
Muninam,
of the great sages.
of the great sages.
Translation. Let me offer my respectful obeisances
Let me offer my respectful obeisances
unto him,
unto him,
Shuka,
Shuka,
the spiritual master of all sages,
the spiritual master of all sages,
the son of Vyasadeva,
the son of Vyasadeva,
who out of his great compassion
who out of his great compassion
for those gross materialists
for those gross materialists
who struggle to cross over
who struggle to cross over
the darkest regions of material existence,
the darkest regions of material existence,
spoke this most confidential supplement
spoke this most confidential supplement
to the cream of Vedic knowledge.
to the cream of Vedic knowledge.
After having personally
After having personally
assimilated it by experience.
assimilated it by experience.
So, continuing to offer his obeisances, Suta Goswami is establishing the position of Shukadev Goswami. Who Shukadev Goswami? He's the master of all the sages. He's the son of Vyasadeva. Why has he come? From birth, he is a pure devotee. He didn't go through any reformatory process. Why did he come? He came out of his compassion for those of us who are struggling in this samsara. We are caught up in this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Why did he come? He came to speak the most confidential supplement to all of the Vedic scriptures. So, as we said earlier, this Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the summum bonum of all of the Vedic scriptures. So, essentially, it's the cream, as they say, creme de la creme, or something like that in French. So, after having personally experienced this bhakti, Shukadev Goswami has come to offer it to the suffering souls in Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, in this prayer, Srila Suta Goswami practically summarizes the complete introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural supplementary commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, meaning the Vedas are difficult to understand unless you go through the reformatory process and have a bona fide guru who can teach you all of the Vedic scriptures. But if you want to understand the essence of all Vedas, all you have to do is read the commentary on the Vedas. The commentary on the Vedas is accepted as Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The essence of all of the Vedas is summarized by Vyasadeva in a treatise called the Vedanta Sutras. To explain the Vedanta Sutras, Vyasadeva then writes Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Vedanta Sutras or the Brahma Sutras were compiled by Vyasadeva with a view to presenting just the cream of Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on this cream. So, what is the cream of all Vedic knowledge? It's the Vedanta Sutras. But to understand the sutras that are like little riddles, like for him, for example, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvam Masi, these things are these little phrases of two, three words are considered the sutras. But to unlock the sutras, you need somebody to explain the sutras. What is Aham Brahmasmi? Aham Brahmasmi, we all know means I am Brahman. Okay, what does that mean? I am Brahman. Who will explain that to you? So the commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, Vyasadeva himself writes the Srimad Bhagavatam. So by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, you understood all the Vedic scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on this cream. So what is the essence of all Vedic scriptures? It's the Vedanta Sutras. How do you understand the Vedanta Sutras? By simply reading the natural supplementary and commentary to the Vedanta Sutras, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a thoroughly realized master on the Vedanta Sutra, and consequently, he also personally realized the commentary Srimad Bhagavatam. When he walks out of his mother's womb, he is already a expert in Vedanta Sutra. Actually, sitting in his mother's womb, he's been listening to his father writing all the Vedic scriptures and correcting his father every now and then. So he was already an expert. And just to show his boundless mercy upon bewildered materialistic men who want to cross completely over nescience, he recited for the first time this confidential knowledge. So Srila Vyasadeva writes the Srimad Bhagavatam, but who recites the Srimad Bhagavatam first? Shukadeva Goswami. There is no point in arguing that a materialistic man can be happy. No materialistic creature, be he the great Brahma or an insignificant ant, can be happy. Everyone tries to make a permanent plan for happiness, but everyone is baffled by the laws of material nature. So Prakriti, Maya Devi constantly creates confusion for you. Therefore, the materialistic world is called the darkest region of God's creation. Yet, the unhappy materialists can get out of it simply by desiring to get out. So, the only desire you have to have is, I want to get out of this miserable place. Once you have that desire that I want to get out of this miserable place, the Guru will come into your life. But if you think this world is fantastic, I just need to make all kinds of adjustments and arrangements and my life will be perfect, then you're not ready to hear the scriptures. Unfortunately, they are so foolish that they do not want to escape. Therefore, they are compared to the camel who relishes thorny twigs because he likes the taste of the twigs mixed with blood. So, Prabhupada uses the Shastras use this analogy, and Prabhupada is mentioning here that apparently the camel likes to eat certain very thorny bushes. Actually, it doesn't enjoy the thorn because the thorn is cutting its gums, cutting its tongue. What does it actually like? It actually likes that blood that is going down its throat. It doesn't realize that they are enjoying the thorny twigs just so that the camel can taste its own blood. So Prabhupada is saying such is the condition of materialistic people. They are trying to make their life comfortable, but they don't realize they are constantly cutting themselves. Similarly, to the materialist, his own blood is as sweet as honey. And although he is always harassed by his own material creations, he does not wish to escape. No matter what we try to do to make our lives comfortable here, there's always going to be something that is in jeopardy all the time. But we think, no, I'll make a little bit more adjustment, it'll be better. Or I'll make a little bit more adjustment, it'll be better. We don't realize the futility of what it is that we're trying to adjust. You can never be happy. Krishna has already declared Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam in chapter 8. We don't need to go beyond that. Such materialists are called karmis. Out of hundreds of thousands of karmis, only a few may feel tired of material engagement and desire to get out of the labyrinth. Labyrinth means like a very, very complicated place out of which you don't know which way to get out. Such intelligent persons are called jnanis. The Vedanta Sutra is directed to such jnanis. But Srila Vyasadeva, being the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, could foresee the misuse of the Vedanta Sutra by unscrupulous men, and therefore he personally supplemented the Vedanta Sutra with a Bhagavata Purana. It is clearly said that this Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Srila Vyasadeva also instructed the Bhagavatam to his own son, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who was already at the liberated stage of transcendence. Srila Shukadeva Goswami realized it personally and then explained it. By the mercy of Srila Shukadeva, the Bhagavata Vedanta Sutra is available for all those sincere souls who want to get out of material existence. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who want to get out of this life, to escape this cycle. Punarapi Janam, Punarapi Mananam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the one unrivaled commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Sripad Shankaracharya intentionally did not touch it because he knew that the natural commentary would be difficult for him to surpass. He wrote his Shariraka Bhashya, and his so-called followers deprecated the Bhagavatam as some new presentation. One should not be misled by such propaganda directed against the Bhagavatam by the Mayavada school. From this introductory shloka, the beginning student should know that Srimad Bhagavatam is the only transcendental literature meant for those who are Paramahamsas and completely freed from the material disease called malice. The Mayavadis are envious of the personality of Godhead, despite Sripad Shankaracharya's admission that Narayana, the personality of Godhead, is above the material creation. The envious Mayavadi cannot have access to the Bhagavatam, but those who are really anxious to get out of this material existence may take shelter of this Bhagavatam because it is uttered by the liberated Srila Shukadeva Goswami. It is the transcendental torchlight by which one can see perfectly the transcendental absolute truth, realized as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying that although Sripad Shankaracharya says that Sriman Narayana is the ultimate personality of Godhead, somehow or the other, some of his followers did not glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if they were to get into the details of the Bhagavatam, then their own philosophy, their school of thought would be naturally defeated. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is only for those who are anxious and desperate to get out of this cycle of birth and death. And this Bhagavatam is meant for Paramahamsas. And this Bhagavatam becomes the transcendental torchlight by which you can understand the three features of the Lord, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So we will do one more shloka, or maybe two more shlokas. Let us see. So we'll go to shloka number 4. Narayanam namaskritya
Narayanam namaskritya
naram chaiva narottamam
naram chaiva narottamam
devim saraswatim vyasam
devim saraswatim vyasam
tato jayamudirayet.
tato jayamudirayet.
Word for word meaning. Narayanam,
Narayanam,
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead.
Namaha Kritya,
Namaha Kritya.
After offering respectful obeisances.
After offering respectful obeisances.
Naram cha eva.
Naram cha eva.
And Narayana Rishi.
And Narayana Rishi.
Nara Uttamam.
Nara Uttamam.
The supermost human being.
The supermost human being.
Devim.
Devim.
The goddess.
The goddess.
Sarasvatim.
Saraswati.
The mistress of learning.
The mistress of learning.
Vyasam.
Vyasam.
Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva.
Tataha.
Tataha.
Thereafter.
Thereafter.
Jayam.
Jayam.
All that is meant for conquering.
All that is meant for conquering.
Udirayet.
Udirayet.
Be announced.
Be announced.
Translation. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam,
Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam,
which is the very means of conquest,
which is the very means of conquest,
one should offer respectful obeisances
one should offer respectful obeisances
unto the personality of Godhead,
unto the personality of Godhead,
Narayana,
Narayana,
unto Naranarayana Rishi,
unto Narayana Rishi,
the supermost human being,
the supermost human being,
unto Mother Saraswati,
unto Mother Saraswati,
the goddess of learning,
the goddess of learning,
and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
So here, Suta Goswami has offered his obeisances to his spiritual master, and now he's offering his obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayana, unto Naranayana Rishi, unto Mother Saraswati, and finally to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada writes, all the Vedic literatures and the Puranas are meant for conquering the darkest region of material existence. The living being is in the state of forgetfulness of his relation with God due to his being overly attracted to material sense gratification from time immemorial. His struggle for existence in the material world is perpetual, and it is not possible for him to get out of it by making plans. If he at all wants to conquer this perpetual struggle for existence, he must re-establish his eternal relation with God. So, as Prabhupada has already stated in the previous purport, we can make all kinds of plans. All our plans will be defeated by Maya Devi. But if we really want to go back to the Supreme Lord, the only plan we should make is to re-establish our eternal relationship with God. And one who wants to adopt such remedial measures must take shelter of literatures such as the Vedas and the Puranas. Foolish people say that the Puranas have no connection with the Vedas. However, the Puranas are supplementary explanations of the Vedas intended for different types of men. All men are not equal. There are men who are conducted by the mode of goodness, others who are under the mode of passion, and others who are under the mode of ignorance. The Puranas are so divided that any class of men can take advantage of them and gradually regain their lost position and get out of the hard struggle for existence. Srila Suta Goswami shows the way of chanting the Puranas. This may be followed by persons who aspire to be preachers of the Vedic literatures and the Puranas. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana, and it is especially meant for them who desire to get out of the material entanglement permanently. Which means anybody who is attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam must have already reached the Sattvagun stage and may have also transcended the Sattvagun stage. So the Puranas themselves are divided as per the three gunas. So there are certain Puranas that are for those who are in the mode of Tamogun. There are certain Puranas for those in the mode of Rajagun. And there are certain Puranas for those in the mode of Sattvagun. So depending on your inclination and your taste, the respective Puranas may appeal to you because you are under the influence of a particular guna, predominantly under the influence of a particular. Which brings us to shloka number 5. Munayas sadhu sprishtoham
Munayah sadhu prashtoham
bhavadbhirlokamangalam
bhavadbhirlokamangalam
yatkritah krishna samprashnah
yatkritah krishna samprashnah
yenatma suprasidati.
yenatma suprasidati.
Word for word meaning. Munayaha,
Munayah,
O sages.
O sages.
Sadhu,
Sadhu,
this is relevant.
this is relevant.
Prishtaha,
Prishtaha,
questioned.
question.
Aham,
Aham,
myself.
myself.
Bhavadbihi,
Bhavatbihi,
by all of you.
by all of you.
Loka,
Loka,
the world.
the world.
Mangalam,
Mangalam,
welfare.
welfare.
Yat,
Yat,
because.
because.
Kritaha,
Kritaha,
made.
made.
Krishna,
Krishna,
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of God.
Samprashnaha,
Samprashnaha,
relevant question.
relevant question.
Yena,
Yena,
by which.
by which.
Atma,
Atma,
self.
self.
Suprasidati,
Suprasidati,
completely pleased.
completely pleased.
Translation. O sages,
O sages,
I have been justly questioned by you.
I have been justly questioned by you.
Your questions are worthy
Your questions are worthy
because they relate to Lord Krishna
because they relate to Lord Krishna
and so are of relevance to the world's welfare.
and so are of relevance to the world's welfare.
Only questions of this sort
Only questions of this sort
are capable of completely satisfying the self.
are capable of completely satisfying the self.
So Prabhupada writes, since it has been stated herein before that in the Bhagavatam the absolute truth is to be known, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, which is the shloka that we were just talking about, the Personality of Godhead says that in all the Vedas there is nothing but the urge for searching after Him, Lord Krishna. Thus, the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all Vedic inquiries. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. And in the evening, also, the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers. And so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the college, schools and colleges. The legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers. And the politicians and press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Also, although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. What are the questions? Why is Prabhupada saying the birds and beasts are asking questions and answers? Their questions and answers is where is the next food? Who can I mate with? How do I build my house? So even the birds and beasts are occupied with questions and answers. They may not be expressing it to you. But Prabhupada is so beautifully writing. The only question and answer that will satisfy us is anything in relation to the subject matter of the Lord. Otherwise, all other questions and answers, we can keep asking questions, we can keep finding answers, but we are never ever satisfied. Only questions and answers about Krishna actually satisfy the soul, and that's where the bliss is. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father, or son, an object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So, if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all round solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. So,